this is my experience with this message. The words are a vehicle. They're like a booster rocket. Yeah. Once the ship takes off, they drop off. Yeah. They have no purpose for the remaining of the voyage. The booster rocket. So the words sort of carry the message. Yeah. They get in. The words sort of become like any other word you ever heard, but the message gets in there and it causes an infection, so to speak. So it sort of enters self-centeredness, and then it starts eroding the whole center of the system, which is this idea of self. Yeah, it doesn't work like, it doesn't deal with the thousands of thoughts and all this stuff. It just goes to thinker, feeler, doer. Yeah, basically its target is very, very precise. It doesn't get lost into good, bad thoughts, nice thoughts, spiritual thoughts, addictive thoughts. It doesn't go anywhere there. It just goes to that sense of being the thinker, the sense of being the feeler, the sense of being the doer. Has no interest in doing. It's not a moral or ethical path. It's just basically looking at, is there two? Is there a doer and the done? Is there a seer and the seen? Is there a hearer and the hearing? Is there a feeling, a feeler and the felt? Is there two? That's all it's questioning. Non-duality emphatically says not two. So if you're entertaining non-duality, you can only entertain non-duality in sort of a negative way. There's a recognition that there's not two, and that's the entertaining of non-duality. Yeah, you can't entertain non-duality because there's nothing there. It's just a negation. So the negation is of what it's not what we're entertaining, it's how we're entertaining everything else. We're entertaining everything else in a dualistic manner. And if you just look at your own experience right now, right where you're sitting, sometimes there's a sense that you're the subject, like I'm the doer, I'm the thinker, I'm the feeler, and then sometimes you're gone over as the object. Yeah? You're looking at yourself as, oh, fuck this, fucking getting too fat or heavy or whatever. So suddenly, in like a blink of an eye, you're cast as a subject, and in the next moment, you're sitting there for 4 hours as the thought system critiques you as an object. Yeah? That's the negation. The negation of that subject-object. Yeah? That's it. So there's dualism, which is subject-object switch. So sometimes you're seeing me as an object, I'm seeing you as from the subject. See? So if you took a vote, millions of people would say I'm an object, but I would beg to differ because the sense when I'm seeing you, I feel like I'm the subject. Yeah? But everyone else in the world sees me as an object. No one basically sees me because they're seeing me from the idea of being a subject. So there isn't a subject seeing a subject, there's a subject seeing an object. Yeah? It's dualism, subject-object, and then the dualism. Let's say if you were looking through if you had undifferentiated light, let's say, and then the undifferentiated light went through this tunnel and then split, and then it went this way, that would be duality. Yeah, so duality would be yes, no, hot, cold, close, far, male, female, night, day. Yeah, it's sort of like what gets emphasized are the ends of a pole. Yeah, so there's happening, but then there's the person that did it, and then the happening, or something like that. Right? There's an interpretation of verbing to imply there's a noun somewhere. So when there's the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, which if you call it a doing, we've been doing it ever since we got up this morning. Now, I didn't go to a class of doing. I didn't go to a class of seeing and hearing, feeling. It's just happening, yeah? I don't seem to have any volition over it. It's not really sweating because it's been seeing too much, yeah? It's not going, Jesus, I can't hear anymore. It's hearing, yeah? Because it's not doing it, it's being it, yeah? It's being conscious, that's its nature. So there's the being conscious, which if you just look at today, that's the baseline for all of us. Yeah? You're here, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, with no kind of volition. You're not doing it like you would do running, you know? Yeah. But it's cast as if you are. So the mental state, by claiming the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, it claims it, and it uses the seeing to imply the seer. Yeah? And so for the seer to be there, there's got to be a seeing. Yeah? So without the seeing, there'd be no seer. But in fact, there's no seer whatsoever. All there is seeing. But without the seeing, there would be no seer. The mental state has to attribute the verb of seeing to a noun. It can't come up with the noun itself. Yeah? Without actions, there would be no sense of being the doer, obviously. So, and if you don't see this, it's like living your life with the cart in front of the horse. Now, you may be doing it for quite a while, so you think that's normal, but in fact, it's off, yeah? And if you could just have a moment where the horse was in front of the cart, you would see how insane the mental logic is. You would just see it clearly. You wouldn't have to go through like 3 years of seminars. You would just see it. Yeah, there wouldn't be you seeing it. There'd be a seeing of it. Yeah. All right. So we use a terminology called selfing. Selfing is very, very simple. It's a verb, and the verb is the act of being identified as a self. Yeah? Now, there is no self to be identified with, so there isn't a verb that's attaching to the noun self. Yeah? So there isn't this thing to be identified with. There isn't a self that you could be in the act of being identified with it. The whole thing is a verb, the act of being identified as a self. The feeling that it's a noun, that's the mistake. It's a verb. The whole thing is the act of being identified as a self. It's not like the act of being identified and then as a self. Yes? You see it? The act of being identified as is the verb, yeah? And then we would think there's a noun called a self. So I've been identified as self all day. No. You've never been identified as self. What's been happening is you've been listening to the act of being identified as a self. You have believed it, yeah? So suddenly, your believing the act of being identified as a self is what implies the self. As soon as the self is implied, it will now claim to be the one that's been in the act of being identified as a self. You see it? If you see it, that's all it is. It's a flavor and it's done in time. The act of being identified as a self is a verb. When that happens, and that which we are is what, look at your head. Your head isn't playing to out here, it's playing to the audience in here, yeah? All your thoughts aren't open to, it's not a public source, you know? It's not free sourcing. It's all in here. It's playing to an audience of none, really. It's playing to the audience of what we are. So here it is, the mental state's trotting out this act, the act of being identified as a self. And so what happens? You go, well, and then so then you suddenly go into the memories, yeah? Through time. And how are you pictured? As a body. So suddenly you're seen as what you would call a self in the past, yeah? The whole thought system thinks of you as a self, and the perceptions are seeing things. They're not seeing no thing, they're seeing things. I see this chair, this, you, that, yes? So when we're relying when what we are is relying on the GPS, yeah, of memory, thought, and perception. That GPS, its source code is you're a self, you're a body, yeah? Not even a body, really, you're a doer and a thinker and a feeler, and it pins it on the body, yeah? The body is the object of which it puts the claiming on. So the actions are claimed to imply the actor. This gets hit with the brand or the tag of actor, right? The thought system, thinking, implies there's got to be a thinker. The thinker gets tattooed to the body. So now you're the thinker, the doer, and then all the feelings all day are being used to imply that there's one person who's having the feelings, and that's the feeler. Yeah. So the body is sort of like, let's say if something was advertising a party but never happened, but it would constantly post on a thing like this, party. This is the body. So the body gets to be the demonstration or the advertisement or the clincher or the convincer that yes, I'm the doer, the feeler, the thinker. Yeah. As soon as that's in place, you live from there. Now you fall into certain categories, like in AA they go, if you live from there, most of your activities of trying to get relief from that would be cast as self can't get out of self. So you're already in the act of being identified as a self. You're now feeling the irritable restlessness and discontent that can produce, and now there's a natural desire to get relief, but getting the relief is fucking hijacked because you try to get relief as the problem. Not from it, but as it. So you want to have relief from self, but as a self. So then maybe you go through all this stuff and you end up at the last house on the block, spirituality, and you're doing spirituality with the same thing, same attitude, or the same beginning point of reference that you did everything else, starting from here, taking this to be exactly what you are, and then going forth to try to get relief for this. Yeah? To try to get a spiritual condition for this. So maybe I go to a 3-day course, seminar of chanting I'm not a body. But every moment I'm chanting I'm not a body, it's the body identification claiming to be chanting I'm not a body. What does the chanting I'm not a body do? Reinforce the body identification. If you're in, you can't get out. All the outs of that in are more in. It's just the way it goes. If you don't see the robbery, go ahead and do what you're doing the way you think you're doing it, and so hopefully all the things that you try to do to get relief from that or for that or as that are going to fail you, and that's the greatest teaching they provide. You'll realize that all the mechanisms to stabilizing getting out of it, you can get out of it with a huge shot of cocaine for about 30 seconds or a minute or two. You can get out of it in an ecstatic state, but then suddenly, as the ecstatic state is there, the mental state will arise and claim to be the one that's having the ecstasy. And notice the ecstatic state. You would think that these things, if they happen, would put you over the top. They never put you over the top. People have incredible spiritual experiences that find no traction whatsoever. Because as soon as they arise, as soon as the mental state regroups and notices it, it claims to be the one that had the experience. You see? How are you going to get out of that as that? The system can recognize the irritability, restlessness, and discontent, but it can't recognize the source of it because it's identified as the system. Yeah? Its source code is not going to let it go to that answer. It's life-threatening. That which you're taking yourself to be is protected and defended as if it was you, as if it is you, because it's convinced us it's us. So let's say you practice spirituality and it leads to the point, what's blocking me fucking off from this thing? And suddenly it all comes back to you, let's say, And then you realize, Jesus Christ, I'm the biggest deterrent for me to get to where I want to go. So, all right, so now it becomes this. For me to have reality, I basically have to be destroyed for me to attain reality. You're not going to want to attain reality. It's not going to be on the top of your list to rush to reality, because reality means you're going to be destroyed. So there's a little cognitive dissonance there, yeah? You can't get the whole army marching in the same way. So your head's going full steam ahead, and then this road, no. Yeah. And the fact is, it's made spirituality another way to hide out. Because in some systems, let's say a furniture store promised you a couch on Wednesday, and it hadn't come by Saturday, you'd fucking flip out. But here in spirituality, you think it may take lifetimes. You can't, there's no warranty, you can't return it, and it may take lifetimes. So it's a pretty good self-surviving policy for the system, yeah? You can be looking for what you are for fucking ever. But the whole direction is to see what you're not, and then you'll find out what you are. Because many of us sitting in this room have tried to find out what we are from what we're not for many, many fucking years. And it finally somehow dawned on us, something's off with that. What the hell's going on? I can have unbelievable experiences, but they're gone by the next day. They seem like this should have put me over the edge. It doesn't. This was the one. It ain't. You know, this was the big fucking break. No, it doesn't. It's like this thing is sort of like when a thermometer breaks and the mercury gets spread. It goes. You go, what? How? If that couldn't blow it apart, I don't know what can. Yeah, because. So then suddenly, maybe you hear a talk, or maybe you read a book, maybe Huang Po or Nisargadatta or Ramana Maharshi, and then you see in their, supposedly, they're not their writings, it's someone else wrote them down, you see this certain warning that they all say in their own little memorable ways, and they usually say it many, many times, which is this basic conundrum of the act of being identified as what you're not. Yeah, because if you want to get to LA and you're basing on your trip to LA on Omaha, it would be important that you're in Omaha, because you're going to buy a lot of maps of how to get to LA from Omaha. But what would happen if you're not in Omaha? You may be in LA already. Yeah, all the trips to LA would be the way to hide LA from yourself. You see? That's the joke of spirituality. So he says, Ramana Maharshi, you can follow it, it's beautiful. He says it in even better ways, but I can't find the book. So there's a presupposing, but the reason I like this way is he uses pre, because it tells you, he points to the effect of time here. There's a supposing, but the supposing presupposes, yeah? So when it's supposed, it presupposes itself. This is the trick. So there's a supposing that presupposes that a non-existent thing is existing. Yes? So in other words, this is what's conscious. Not consciousness moving through this, but this is what's conscious. Yeah, you see the cart is in front of the horse. You believe the cart is what's conscious. That's the cart in front of the horse. Let's say consciousness is moving through this. That would be the horse in front of the cart. Yeah? So we're starting with the cart in front of the horse. Yeah? How does the cart get in front of the horse? It's a little trick in time. So the mental state notices there's activity, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Yeah? It comes after the activity. So the seeing is first. And then the seeing claimed by the mental state is used to imply the seer. You see? So it uses the seeing. It comes after the seeing, the idea of being the seer. But when there's a buying of it when what we are as the audience watching this whole mental narrative buys it. It presupposes, yeah, that the seer that came after the seeing is what's seeing. Yeah? It does this thousands and thousands of times. I saw it beautifully illustrated in LA, doing a talk there. Guy who'd listened to me a few times. He starts saying, all right, listen, instead of using the term selfing, let's call Pauling, all right? So he says, how much is Paul Pauling on a regular day? Is Paul Pauling 90% of the time, 70%? If it's a really good day, 10%? How much would you say? And I said, no, you're off. There's Pauling that implies the Paul, yeah? Watch it. There's Pauling, and then it's used to imply the Paul. As soon as the little magic trick works, you feel like you were the Paul, you were doing the Pauling. So Paul is seen as what's doing the Pauling, but the Pauling was used to imply the Paul, which was then presupposed to be doing the Pauling. That's the fucking heist. Are you going to change it? No. Is there any need to change it? No. You just see it. See it. It's the one quality that has been untouched. It's been turned into or been interpreted as a form of looking, but the seeing is seeing. Yeah. It has been untouched by all the shenanigans that seem to be happening after. That's the one point of reliability. Yeah. You can see the heist. If you see the heist, you may not have, it's not like you have to now stay vigilant for 40 years seeing the heist, because what you realize is also that which is trying to be vigilant seeing the heist is the policeman in this duality of policeman, thief, thief, policeman. It's the same thing. That which is catching the thief is the thief. That which is the thief, you know? So it's all in cahoots. So you're not going to be, for 30 years, being vigilant. I'm seeing the heist, you know? You see it, and because it's always referring a non-existent thing, if you get the idea that it's non-existent, how much, you don't even have to kill it once, because it doesn't exist. You don't have to vanquish it once and then feel like it's going to resurrect every few years. No, there's no killing it or extinguishing it. It's non-existent. It's an idea, yeah? That's all it is. It's an idea. So once you get weaned off of the idea, there's no remembering, have to remember, I'm weaned off the idea. None of that. There's no, plan of maintenance. There's no manual of how you're going to maintain, because the condition you are isn't maintained. It's inherent. Yeah? Now, if you still feel this is important to fucking domesticate or fucking culturize it, then go ahead. But the fact is, that which you are doesn't need any work. It doesn't. All it needs, it doesn't need anything. Here, basically, if it has the tiniest of access, it will produce an incredible effect that this thing and all its shenanigans could never produce, which is a stabilized traveling lighter through what life has to offer. Not a grand thing of, oh, it's going to be great from now on, nothing's ever going to happen to me, I'll have new knees every week and fucking 50 cars. No, things will be just as they are, but you realize you're traveling lighter over them. And it's so obvious you had no role in producing that, because you've been trying to produce the traveling lighter for fucking 30, 50, 60 years, and now it seems to have just bled into the stream. So the observation is so beyond the point of claiming, it's left untouched, and now you can truly relax, yes? Because the burden is not on you to allow this to be available, yeah? Paul can just be as much as Paul wants, and he ain't Paul. That's just that simple. Yeah? It doesn't he's less Paul that day and more Paul next day. All the less and more, all the close and far they're just like moving your hands in darkness with a little tail of light. It's just all made up. Nothing, what you are hasn't moved an inch. It's everywhere. It can't be disturbed by what's not happening. But I want to see it, I want it to appear as Paul. Well, it ain't. Paul is a Toyota, not a chariot to the gods. Yeah. It's fucking not the perfect, full physical embodiment of fucking no thing. That's not available. Yeah. This is just a body. It's seemingly of time. You get a break from it every night. You go to sleep. Yes? I mean, what more do you want? Seriously. Being the center of the universe spins pretty well without you 1/3 of the time because you're asleep at least 7 or 8 hours a day. So you're not an integral part in the whole event. Yeah, you're like an irrelevant appendage in a sense. Never really been even used. It's just dangling there with a sense of being all important. So once I had this, seeing this, it gave me eyes to see it being said in these men's teachings. It could be women's also. It could be no one. But Huang Po and Ramana and Nisargadatta. And basically, it turned out to be the last answer because it's before any answers, really. Non-duality isn't something that shows up in duality. It's the context of this whole appearance, yeah? Non-duality is like the sky, and let's say all the duality movements are like the clouds that appear, yeah? They come and go, but they actually leave no effect on the sky. That's what we are like. That's what non-duality is. It's nothing. It is what it is, and it's indescribable, cannot understand it. So people who are trying to point to that and trying to cause you to have an understanding is that, I don't think it goes well that way. I think what you need an understanding of is what you're not. Because you may be falling into the act of being identified as what you're not. And the only correction you need is, I'm not that. And then you'll find out what you are. But if you keep trying to know what you are, or keep trying to get to LA based on that you're leaving from Omaha, you're never going to arrive at LA. And that's what you're waiting for. You want the experience of arrival. Being that which you're looking for, there's no experience of arrival. You've never left. There's no a giant flower and you arrive into the gates. No, there's no arrival. You've never left. That's the dilemma. We're looking at it, we're hoping for it to be an experience. We want to be, can I be there to have it? No. Yeah, that's the dilemma. People will sit 800 meetings like this with still the hopes of getting it. And there's no hope of getting it. Yeah? All there is a seeing of that which is attempting to get it as not you. Yeah? All the getting of it means so much to what you're not. It means absolutely nothing to what you are. Absolutely nothing. I think the greatest signs of spirituality would be 0.0000 signs of spirituality in you. I swear to God. I think the complete success of spirituality when you don't have a spiritual bone in your body left. Really. There's just been an acceptance of how things seem to be, and in totally being here, that's the way you're out, yeah? And you can't try to be here to get out. That won't work. You find yourself somewhere, you haven't tried to lose interest, but there's been a loss of interest, yes? But you didn't set out on a course which would be interest in trying to lose interest. That would be the same old, same old. There's just a loss of interest. And then there's a reshuffle and a reconfiguring, and you seem to be on the same game board, and you seem to be the boot or the Eiffel Tower, just like you always were, but now you're traveling lighter. Baltic Place, Boardwalk, it's just there's just rotations. Yes, I got get out of jail free card. It's just going on, and it's not a life. Every square isn't a life or death moment. You're just moving through this little wheel of life, seemingly, and yet there's the demarcations are lost. I don't see much between yesterday and today. Where did Friday stop and Saturday begin? I don't see the clear line. You can tell me, a clock told me, but what the fuck is that? Yeah? It just seems to be one fucking whatever, yeah? With a huge stream through it. And you as the only stability here. You as the only stability here. You as the only stability. Everything else is moving. Everything else is verbing. Yeah? But you're the unshakable, unmovable. It can move usually and never move, obviously, everywhere. So, and if you're interested in the talk, you're interested in understanding it, God help you really. But if you're interested in understanding it, we have tons of videos, and the direction I was pushed was to try to describe what we're not, yeah? To just try to describe how the mental state manufactures this impossibility that you're a thing, yeah? And how it reinforces it, because as the no thing, see, this is the dilemma. If you're identified as what's not happening, yeah? You're cast into looking for what you are from what you're not, which you could actually stamp every journey from that shore failed, in a sense. Other than that, the journey is going to succeed by showing you it's failed, yeah? But here you go. So, looking for what you are from what you're not. At the same moment, it would look exactly the same. Switch the emphasis, seeing what you're not from what you are. Yeah? That's it. So on one level, there's a looking for what you are from what you're not, yet in a much more contextual level, there's a seeing of what you are from what or what you're not from what you are. It's just that simple. Yeah, it's a little switcheroo. Yeah, and it may look like it keeps going like this, but it never goes like this. Once it connects, that's that. Now the head goes keeps, and then you want to believe, oh, I lost it, but no, there's no losing anything. So yes, to understand what you are is impossible. To know what you are is impossible. To experience what you are is impossible. To know what you're not is possible. To study what you're not is possible. To experience, you're always experiencing what you're not, yes? And when you realize that you cannot be known, experienced, understood, you'll realize by knowing, experiencing, and understanding what you're not, that you are being what you are every moment of seeing. That's what you are. You're the seeing of what you're not. Yeah? So as you're seeing the dreaming, which is what you're not, there's a sense of being that seeing of what you're not. Yeah? Therefore, you don't, experiences come and go. You've understood enough already. If you're at this meeting, your understanding has delivered you. You don't need to understand fucking much more, really. All you're studying, if you got to this point of maybe questioning duality and the sense of being a singularity in a subject, then you've done all that you needed to do of studying. Seriously, you have. So studying has a point to the place, and then it's pointless. Because when you're at that point, then the option is either you keep trying to be it, or you realize you always are it. Yeah? If you keep trying to beat it, beating one's head is going to serve, because it's going to tell you it's never going to fucking work. Or you can just have the understanding it's never going to work. You already had enough experience it doesn't work. You've studied how it works so much and it never worked. And then maybe there's a falling into the possibility, which is always available at all times, right where you are, which is being it. And then maybe all those things that you believe have disqualified you from being it, bad behaviors, thoughts, obsessions, desires, you'll see they cannot exile you from what you are unless what you are believes they can, really. If what you are believes you have to fucking purify yourself, you better fucking start purifying yourself, because that's what goes. As you believe, so it is. That's dreaming. Yeah? So keep it short and sweet, yes? But look at, if you're interested in this, look into the videos. They'll describe everything. The best of me is in the videos, pretty much. Because the lack of interest I have coming here, if you watch 80 videos, it has built up to an interest. Yeah. So 80 times I've come here, something has been drawn out that's value. And there is a basic working understanding there. Yeah. And I'll tell you, sometimes, like, if you can fly, but you don't believe you have wings yet, it's nice if you have a perch of understanding. It may make the possibility a little more attractive, yeah? That you'll take that little leap, yeah? Because there is no leap at all. But, you know what I mean? Here, fuck no way. But with an understanding, all right, I feel like, yeah. And then, yeah. Any questions?
I was going to say, I like, the example about falling the guy to death. There's also the assumption of the block of time, besides the assumption of there's a fall falling. So
The block of time.
yeah, so it's like you can't help but think that because, well, you've already defined the block of time, like you were saying.
Oh yes, yeah.
You can't not have that answer to that question if you're assuming that's there.
Well, see, a lot of questions are the best fucking illustrations of what I'm attempting to say, yeah? Because everyone, if they hear this, they go, call me, they used to, and they go, oh, Paul, I've been selfing all day. And I said, that's not it. Or the selfing has been driving me crazy. That's not it. You see? The selfing comes before the Paul. The Paul is presupposed, and suddenly the Paul is the claiming of the selfing somehow. Either claiming it's fucking Paul or Paul's doing it. You see? That movement is reproduced zillions of times all day. See, if you entertain something truly impossible, the only way it could seem to be possible is through time. Yeah? It's time that makes it allow us to seem to be so. It's all about time. If you were suggested once, if you heard the suggestion, you're a thing as no thing, it wouldn't take any effect. But let's say there's a hearing of it thousands of times every day in this little stretching out in time, then suddenly that seems impossible seems to be very possible. That you're separate, that you're lacking, that you're an action figure that's going to come and go, that you're the doer of what's being done, you're the feeler of what's being felt, you're the thinker, you're the haver, you're the loser. You basically have a lot to do with everything that's fucking happening. Yeah. But if you heard it once as no thing, what the fuck? Yeah.
I'm interested in what we talked about before with being actor, a healer, and a doer. And when you mentioned before, just now about basically eclipsing time, how time unravels for you, about thousands of actions that happen, and somehow those actions either block who you are, or then pass over and the light shines on who you are. How does time, in your opinion, metaphysically wise, unravel to make some like collective consciousness? Like, in the Buddhist sense, what is a collective consciousness?
Well, I'm not coming from the Buddhist sense, really.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't believe there's collective consciousness because I don't think there's uncollected consciousness.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? I don't think collective consciousness has gotten uncollected and now is getting collected again. I don't believe it. I believe this is a dream. This is dreaming. I don't believe anything has come to pass here at all, to tell you the truth. I really don't. I don't believe, no matter how much there's been happening, nothing ever really happened to you. It's just like at night. You at night it's as real can be while you're in it. Then you wake up and now you have a point of comparison and you say, oh, that was dreaming. That's not real. Here, we don't have a point of comparison. We think this is real. This is just the awake dream. Yeah? It's just an extension of the same dreaming, but we think we're awake. And then what happens is you realize this is dreaming. Yeah? So that's my feeling. You know, people could, they have their own, but from I've overdosed a few times and passed away. And when I seem to have come back, I had a distinct feeling this has nothing to do with anything, really. This is just like a weird little spinning of an idea. It's like the most real it could get would be mist-like, really.
Do you believe that our interpretation of reality is the reality that exists?
No, I don't think there's. See, first of all, I don't think I don't believe reality even exists. It's in time. The unreality seems to exist. The dreaming. I think what reality is not of time. So, if something that always exists, would you call it existing? No. Yeah. So I don't believe there's. I believe we're dreaming. I think this is like this. This is a tripod. Yeah. It's a camera location. And in this case, the camera has a chip called self-centeredness. So when the light is moving through it, it claims to be the light. And so suddenly, when the camera location is moved, it thinks it's moved it. When the camera location sees a great thing, I saw it. When a camera location's in a bad neighborhood, I got myself here. Its whole storyline or narrative of the movie is self-centered. It sees everything as how it pertains to it, as the tripod, not as or the most as the camera when it's all about light. Really, it's not about the camera or tripod.
And if there was a smartphone that literally talked to itself like that, a lot of people would find it really weird. Right?
That's right. Yeah, but we're doing it, and you see sometimes when people get older, they leave all pretense. They're starting to talk out loud. They're just like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Who's in the room with Tony? They're just like yapping because this thing is playing to an audience. Yeah, you have to admit it's like a one-sided costume. Yeah, it's all to the audience. They don't even have a full costume. It's just it's all playing to us.
When you look down at yourself, you see that you're
exactly. You see you're part of yes, exactly. So it's all playing to what we are, and in AA we talked about this acronym of FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Well, that to me is what's happening all day. The mental state is introducing false evidence, like it's going to be a terrible day, or you're a fucking loser, you're never going to be loved, all these things that have no basis in evidence, it's all made up. Yeah? So there's false evidence, but the false evidence, this is the magic place. The false evidence, somehow, some ingredient comes into it where it appears to be real. That's us. Yeah? We're the ingredient that can allow false evidence to appear to be real. Now, I believe for something to appear to be real, it would have to appear to be real to what's real. Yeah? For something to appear to be real, it would have to appear to be real to what's real. It can't how could it come up with an appearance of realness if it has not? It's completely false. It would have to be given some sense of realness by what's real. That's us. That's the audience thinking they're on the fucking stage. That's how I see it. I would have liked it, but it would have been better in some ways if I would have just found more sublime, skillful means and just kept working on Paul. I'd have a lot more people. I could give them techniques and advice, and they feel better, much better than hearing this at times. Really, they would feel better. But there would be that one who felt better who would demand to feel better more, and it goes on and on. Yeah? Where this is just a simple imitation, I have total faith that that which you would hope to complete with this imitation is already so. So it's just like a little pantomime we're playing. And hopefully we get to have a nice coffee and some fellowship and hang out with each other and finish our day however it's going to go. I mean, it was wild on this trip. Is this off, honey? I'm going to check this off. Oh, I had